So, could you tell us a little bit about the status of the negotiations right now between the governor's office and CSEA?
Well, last week I believe we had 2 sessions with the governor's negotiating team and our negotiating team. It's moving. We'd like to see it move quicker, but we want a fair contract for everybody, so we're willing to take as much time as we have to get one.
Are you starting a little late in the negotiation process?
Oh, absolutely. We sent notice to the governor in January that we were ready to move then. I believe the governor, besides the budget, which he had to get through, had a number of other things on his plate, and we referred to start in January, because we know this is going to be a difficult negotiation no matter what we do.
You're trying to get, the governor's trying to get $450 million in concessions out of the public employee unions, including CSEA. Can you achieve those savings without laying off people?
I would hope we can, because any layoff really is a failure of government. If at a time when the entire country is screaming jobs, 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 you lay off 9,000 or close to 10,000 people, that's a failure of government to really do the job they need to. We recognize that the state's in bad fiscal shape. Our members count the money for the state. We pay taxes too. We know we have to do something, but can we get to $450 million? I'm not sure, but we're going to do our best to try to get as far as we can. Then the governor has to make up his mind if he's wedded to this number, or can he practically work with us to do that. I would think rather than have any layoffs, we should find another way to do this.
Well, he has to be wedded to that number because it's in the budget that was approved last week. I mean, doesn't that make it a little bit more difficult to not go along without, say, a furlough plan or a less generous pension plan or something like that?
I think that if there was a real solid reason for the number, we also know, too, that the market's changing, that the economy is hopefully getting better. We know that the tax intakes are growing in different ways. We have to be able to be flexible about what's going on. If the governor wants an early retirement option, may be another way for him to go. Can we do some deferrals in what he needs to do? We're sitting at a table saying not only are we bringing to the table things we're willing to give up and to give back, but we're also saying there has to be other ways, because to get $450 million from the general workforce may not be doable. And then are you really going to say for $100,000 that you need in a budget that we should go out and do something? We should lay off people? That's the wrong way to look at it. We should be looking to do everything but lay off people. And what can we do to be creative?
Are you concerned that some of your traditional allies in the legislature, the Assembly Democrats, for instance, didn't really have your back in the budget negotiations ultimately and could have had a little stronger voice ultimately in the final budget plan?
Not so much concerned about that, but I have to give the governor the credit he's due. The governor found a way to put pressure on the legislature to back them off on their normal positions. I think to a point the legislature maybe puts themselves in a bad spot. You want 3 houses of government that are strong enough to stand against each other. When they agree with each other, they should stand together. When they don't, we don't elect them to be one-party rule, whether it's Democrat or Republican. So what I would feel is the fact the governor knew how to do his negotiations. He got them to do what he needed. The problem being they have to stand up for the constituents they represent. Now that the budget's through and people see the cuts and what those cuts are going to mean out there in school districts and towns and villages, nursing homes, universities, then those people have to remember why they got elected. Because if not, there's always next November.
Okay, one thing that, kind of surprised a lot of people during the whole budget process up until its passage was CSEA and a couple of other unions really didn't seem to be putting up much of a fight when it came to some of the cuts that the governor was proposing. Where was the pushback from some of the public employee unions?
I think the problem you have is the fact that when the governor was negotiating with the legislature, we knew the numbers. We knew he wasn't making them up out of whole cloth. We knew what was there. We were pushing for the millionaire's tax, because we knew that's insane to let that sunset and then have a $5 billion deficit built into what next year is. We were pushing on other issues, but we recognized that we all have to do something. The governor's plan in total wasn't a bad plan, but where it comes out of is the question. How do you do it? Cutting tuitions, cutting health care, cutting this, cutting that. If we would have been standing there saying don't cut public employees, we would have been wrong. We were saying we got to work out something, and that's what the contract's about. We don't negotiate in the press. We negotiate in a room where we can say, here's what we can do to give back something, but here's what we need. The idea here is the fact that our members pay taxes, they live in the communities, and our members on average make about $42,000. We talk about taking a lot away from our members, talks about people that will be on welfare tomorrow night.
Okay. The state contract for public employees, I believe, expired on March 31st. So now you guys are in the Triborough Amendment phase of everything, where everybody gets their automatic step increase if they're due it. That's one argument that some people have made against, Triborough, is that it's a little bit too expensive for the state and even for some county governments as well. What's the argument for the Triborough?
Well, the argument for the Triborough is why Triborough was put in to begin with. Triborough was put into the Taylor law because basically what it was a guarantee. When we first got collective bargaining under the Taylor law, the one thing nobody wanted was a strike. So when a contract's over, theoretically those people who'd like to do away with Triborough would like to have a contract that ends and you get nothing. The employer can do whatever they want to. They can go out and be whatever they want to. We recognized, or at least the legislature back then recognized, I should say, that that's not fair. That when a contract ends, until you get another contract, you should at least be getting those benefits you have in the old contract. Every one of those contracts, whether it's towns or villages or schools or the state, was supposedly negotiated in good faith between the union and the management. I love hearing management saying somebody's got to save me from this terrible contract that they negotiated. We pay taxes. We live in the communities we come from. We know that if those communities would have said to us, we don't have the money, we have problems, we would have faced that at the negotiating table with them. But once you negotiate a contract, and then you say, oh, gee, that was terrible what they did. Contracts are two-way streets. We have given, people don't understand, we pay for our health insurance. State workers pay 10% if you're single, 25% if you're married. We pay into the pension plans. It's not like we're getting free rides here. But when you start talking about let's double the cost of health care and do the rest of this, how much money can we give up in this process?
If the governor seeks and receives major concessions out of you guys, out of CSEA and some of the other unions, are you concerned that that you guys lose leverage in future budget negotiations, future contract negotiations?
I wouldn't say that we'll lose leverage. I think the question really there is whether the governor feels, because let me tell you, the critics will never feel whatever they got from us is enough. It's just human nature. Those people who would love to do away with public employees in general and privatize everything and have public employees work for $1 an hour will never be happy. We're hoping the governor recognizes that, hey, we're trying. We're not coming to the table saying we're not going to give you anything. But let me pick a number, $200 million we can give you. Now, that's half of where you were. Well, that's not enough. You have to give me more. We may not be able to give more. We recognize there's only so much we can give before whatever happens, happens.
So what's next? When do we see some news on this, on these negotiations?
We're hoping that negotiations, now that the budget is done, can start to move quicker. We've heard rumors that the second floor may want to start the process for layoffs. I would hope they don't, because once they start that, then that will harden some of our positions. We don't believe you can lay off 10,000 state workers and provide the services to the taxpayers they deserve. Think about what we're saying. We're not saying you're going to get a tax break. You're going to pay the same taxes and get less services for those tax dollars.
So how much longer, though? Another month, another couple of weeks?
I would say we've gone as far as 18 months without a contract, negotiating it. We'll stay at the table as long as they're willing to be fair with us and negotiate a contract.
Could it last 18 months?
I don't think the governor wants to wait that long. I think he's probably going to want to do something else. We're hoping that we can come to some conclusion a lot faster than that. But we'll stay there as long as it takes to get what's fair. And very honestly, we'll do those things that we have to. People tend to forget that because we haven't been out there fighting, that we can't. Oh yes, we can do a lot. And the big thing is to remind the public now what their loss is. When a politician says to you, I'm going to make sure you don't pay more in taxes, or I'm going to cut your taxes, the first question out of anybody's mouth should be, what am I going to lose?